Portrait retouching is about more than just removing blemishes and wrinkles. It's about working with the photographer to create an image that reveals the subject to the viewer, that creates a connection, gives them an insight. In this module, we're going to go through the process of taking an image from the camera and working it into a portrait that the subject would be proud to show off to friends and potential clients. The first step is to work on those blemishes and lines. Zoom in, don't be afraid to get a close look at what you're working on, and look around for anything that looks like it could be removed. If something you do doesn't look right, don't forget that you can always undo the last thing that you did using Command Z or Control Z on Windows. It's easier to undo than to try to fix a small mistake. You may like to work on a duplicate of your background layer. This ensures that if you do make a horrible mistake, you've got the original image to go back to. Plus, it allows you to see a before and after of the work you've done so far by turning the visibility of the retouching layer off and on, revealing the untouched image below. And don't be afraid to play with the hardness and the opacity of your brush. A soft brush will blend your work with the surrounding pixels, and a lower opacity will help you to soften lines and wrinkles without removing them completely, which is important when you're working on a real people-style portrait, say for a real estate agent or business person. They need to look better, but recognizable. Retouching should be unobtrusive. Ideally, the subject should be able to look at the finished image and not even realize that any retouching has been done. They should just think that the photographer did a great job and they look really refreshed, not heavily retouched. Let's take a look at a few before and after images so you'll have a visual idea of what you're trying to achieve. Sometimes various parts of the image could use some lightening or darkening, referred to as dodging and burning in the photography world. Photoshop provides dodging and burning tools, but be aware that these tools affect pixels directly, and as such are considered destructive tools. A non-destructive method of dodging and burning is to use a transparent layer set to soft light blending mode, and paint on it using black paint to darken and white paint to lighten. Often, the eyes of a portrait can be given a deeper, watery look with a bit of lightening of the iris directly across from the catchlight, that bright reflection of the light source that's often visible in the subject's eyes. Some darkening around the eyelids and pupil, and sometimes the eyebrow can draw attention to the eyes in much the same way that artfully applied makeup can. Even the shape of the face can be changed slightly with some careful darkening or lightening. The contours of the face are defined by the lightness or darkness of the skin. If the skin appears light, it's likely turned toward the light source, and if it appears dark, it's turned away. If the subject has a wide face, some darkening along the sides can push the sides of the face back into the shadows, giving the impression of a narrower face. If a subject has a double chin, some darkening of the neck below the chin line can appear to push the neck back into the shadows, as well as defining the chin and giving a slimmer appearance. The liquefy tool can be used to slightly reshape the subject, maybe slimming here, tucking there, enlarging the eyes slightly, emphasis on slightly. It's all too easy to overdo it with the liquefy, resulting in an odd, cartoonish effect. Slight expression changes are possible, like a hint more of a smile, but again, don't expect miracles, like turning a frowny face into a smile. It's not unusual for some hairs around the subject's head to look like they're trying to escape. These are called stray hairs or flyaways. A few minor strays are actually fairly important in keeping an image looking natural, but too many can create an unkempt appearance. When going after strays, it's important to respect the parts of the image that are behind the hairs. Similar to a wrinkle, use the clone stamp and a brush that's not much wider than the stray hair itself. Using the image behind the hair as a guide, sample bits of background and clone it over the hair, taking care to ensure consistency between the original background and the added detail. You may also encounter stray hairs that cross over other hairs, rather than straying into the background. For these hairs, look at the direction of the hair you want to keep and make sure you clone in that direction, basically cloning the good hair over itself to cover up the stray. The final step will be to apply some sharpening to the image. Now, despite the name, sharpening won't actually make an image sharper if it's slightly out of focus. The sharpening filter, typically the unsharp mask in Photoshop, simply looks for contrasting edges in an image and increases the contrast along the edge, giving the appearance of sharpness. Now, the amount of sharpening you'll apply depends on several factors, including the type of image, resolution, and intended output. Be aware that too much sharpening can actually make the skin appear rougher and more textured, possibly undoing some of the effect of your retouching. So you may want to limit it to areas of the image that could use more crispness, such as the eyes, hair, jewelry, and fabric, while avoiding the skin and areas that should remain smooth. The threshold slider in the unsharp mask filter can be used to avoid sharpening otherwise smooth areas. And that's about all there is to it. Remember, you want to try to keep things looking as natural as possible. So ideally, as I said, if the subject looks at the image, they should just feel that it's a great photograph. Well lit, they look nice and refreshed. Follow those steps, and that's pretty much all there is to it.